Hello, my name is Alexis Henriquez, and this is my presentation on the content overview and thesis that John W. Dower used in the writing of his book War Without Mercy. In this book, he discusses the whole Pacific War that took place during World War II between the Western Allies and the Axis powers. When the United States was attacked in Pearl Harbor in the year 1941, they immediately declared war on Japan and decided to participate in the conflict taking place in Asia as well as Europe. In the conflict in Asia, the Japanese were being proven a threat in areas such as the Philippines and Korea and China. Although conflict was taking place in these battles within Asia, there was also the use of many forms of propaganda by both the Japanese and American home fronts, such as the use of songs, cartoons, and movies that displayed themselves and their opponents in different perspectives. It wouldn't be until the year 1945 that the Pacific War would end, as well as the entirety of World War II. The main thesis that Dower includes in his preface is stated in these two sentences. In a world that continues to experience so much violence and racial hatred, such a dramatic transformation from bitter enmity to genuine cooperation is heartening. Thus, the fading memories of the war pose a paradox. It is fortunate that people on all sides can put such a terrible conflict behind them, but dangerous to forget how easily war came about between Japan and the Western Allies. What Dower means by these two sentences is that it is positive that both countries could move on from this very tragic moment in both their histories, but it is not wise to entirely forget not just the conflict itself, but also the methods on how they represented each other through racial hatred and such. And Dower mentions that in writing this book, he wishes to inform others of the way race played a role in this war as much as the bullets and bombs that both sides used to annihilate each other. Dower first explains the Western point of view, such as that of the United States, who use visual representations of the Japanese, such as in the displayed image, which display the Japanese as malicious apes and primates who were not as evolved as the Americans and other Western allies, and they even had scholars write articles and reports that quote unquote scientifically viewed the enemy as lesser men who contain a low pain tolerance and were shorter than others. And these scholars also mentioned the Japanese to be childish and primitive from a psychological point of view, and even explained that the reason they followed their emperor in a beehive state was because they couldn't think for themselves. The Japanese, on the other hand, they decided to view themselves more in a positive light rather than their enemies in a negative light. In doing so, they create the idea of the pure self, which justified their actions to attacking other Asian groups as well as foreigners, because they believe that it was them that should be the rulers of all Asia following the New World Order after their victory of World War II. And although they'd done this, they also used visual representations like their Western counterparts by displaying their leaders as buffoons, such as Winston Churchill on the image to the left, and even like Franklin D. Roosevelt as demons who were very malicious and manipulative. In conclusion, Dower states in his epilogue that war hates were not new to the mid-20th century, nor were race hates or the killing of combatants. Holy wars were surely not new. Dower accurately portrays this Pacific War that took place in one of the bloodiest wars in human history to that of Holy War, because although the terms of fighting and the battlefields were different, they still used race as a stepping stone to the justification of annihilating one's combatants. And he reiterates his thesis by stating that they used race hates a lot in this war, and it is a fact that many have forgotten. And in writing this book, he wishes to inform readers, such as myself, that war isn't just about the bullets being shot at the enemy, but also about how the public views the enemy from their homes. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.